Hey everybody, welcome to Plant-Based Views. You've probably noticed that we've been posting a lot more interviews with plant-based doctors recently. That's because we've recently been on a trip to Washington where we met a lot of the kind of pioneers in the medical scene. This video is going to be of a segment with our interview with Colin Campbell. If you don't know him, he's author of the China study, which has sold over 3 million copies. And interestingly, he was actually featured recently in a BBC documentary called Clean Eating: The Dirty Truth. Now, he claims in this interview coming up that they had a lack of integrity in the way he was represented. Have a listen to this interview and let me know what you think.
I got contacted by BBC. They wanted to do a documentary, and I said, sounds great to me. And I thought they were going to be an open, objective organization, because I happen to like the Horizon program. I think it's really one of the best of its kind in my mind in the Western world. So we were looking forward to it, and then it came about that they had also contacted through CNN in this country, I think, through CNN. They wanted to also include Dr. Esselstyn, my friend. And they were coming through the States here, and they wanted to land it had to be at his place in Cleveland, as they were meandering on to the west. They wanted to stop there and wanted to know if I might be able to come out. I said, well, I'm just going that way, just so happens I was giving a lecture in Chicago. So we stopped at his place. That's where the interview was held. And the guy who was the chief interviewer was a guy with Cambridge University. Rather, I guess you could say, sophisticated geneticist. He's a molecular geneticist in a sense, which says I have a high rank in intellectual stairway, if you will, in our science. So he comes and he starts asking me questions about things that went on for a couple of hours, driving around in a golf cart in an orchard. And I could tell from the beginning. I mean, I know enough about the use of words, and I can hear the nuance, I can hear that kind of thing in his voice and the way he was saying it, and he was kind of challenging me in some things. And all of a sudden I was getting a little nervous about where's this guy going, because he's not the kind of scientist that I'm familiar with. He's got something else on his mind. And so we then came back to Esselstyn's house, and there Esselstyn had assembled three there were remarkable case studies. One of them was a very prominent person in the Pentagon, and they came and told their stories, how they had just saved their lives, this. And so he interviewed them, and he was really put off by that. He was visibly upset.
He had an agenda, is that what you're saying?
He had an agenda. And so, and I tried to...
It's linked to his funding source.
Pardon?
Do you think that's
well,
linked to his
anyhow, when after all said and done, I waited around. That was last December. I saw the thing online. They told me it was available. I looked at it. I was disgusted with what they had done with it. So I then tried to find it. I even forgot the guy's name from Cambridge. So I called the film crew at BBC, and I said, can you tell me his name? Because I didn't think it was going to happen. They gave me his name, so then I looked up in the scientific literature to see who he was. And sure enough, I found who he was. I found he was at Cambridge, of course. They all jibed, he's a geneticist. And so then I read through the very technical, sort of manuscripts, plural, that what the argument he's making and what he was working on at the time, and that group at Cambridge was doing this, they were trying to find out the genetic basis for obesity. That's a typical thing that pharmaceutical companies do. If you can find the genes responsible for a certain outcome, then the idea is maybe we can find a chemical to intercept that gene action, if you will. That's almost the entire drug industry. So I found that he was actually funded by Sanofi Aventis, the 5th largest pharmaceutical company in the world, based out of Germany. And they had 30, I think they had something like 30 programs or institutes in Germany, and they had 2 outside, one at Yale and one at Cambridge. And so I got into their website. I know who Sanofi Aventis is. I started looking, and I know the jargon is used in molecular genetics, and I know the jargon used in the pharmaceutical industry. And I started reading it. It was so obvious that they were doing nothing more than other drug companies do. Want to find a gene, and this is what this guy was about. So I called him on it. I said, this is nonsense. So I wrote an article. You may have read it. I don't know whether you saw that or not.
Put it on to the BBC.
Yeah, and BBC came back at me. The director of the Horizons was quite angry and said, you should have shown this. Why didn't you tell us you were upset? I said, well, I sent it to you. You had a day and a half. In this digital age, you had time enough to answer it. And so they got angry and said, finally, well, would you publish, our reply? I said, sure, we can do that. But the fact of the matter is what, so the whole thing was actually staged. It was staged. It was staged because they got the guy from Cambridge. Sure. His research is funded by the drug company, and that point of view is what I'm going up against. It's a different way of looking at biomedicine, biomedical sciences. And our work research is really in a major way challenging the entire Western model system.
Do you think he is just misinformed, or do you think he has a lack of integrity?
Both. Both. I think he has a lack of integrity because I should be careful maybe how I say that, but the fact is that he...
do you say both to reflect the complexity?
Here, I tell you one example of that. He was starting to criticize me at one point, and I can't remember whether that was on the film or not. I'm not sure. But he was criticizing me for relying too much on animal studies, experimental animal studies. And I don't apologize for all. That's what we all do in this business, and it started out. He pretended that was really pretty horrible. He uses animals himself. That's where it's a lack of integrity. I think that's a lack of integrity. It's
like a cheap dig at somebody in a plant-based community.
Pardon?
It's like he knew that was like a chink in your armor,
That's right. Whatever interpretation you have, but I mean that was a lack of integrity. And then on questions concerning, the way we evaluate data and the way we collect information in science, I happen to be of the opinion now these days, and I did the whole decades-long research focused on a reductionist approach, using one thing to test this and so forth. But I've come to obviously a very different view of what it really is, and he somehow sort of knew what I was saying, but then he started lecturing me. I had to be careful what I say. I can't be representing myself to the public.
Pardon? You were trapped. You couldn't do anything right.
That's right. I couldn't do anything right.